Imagine a gavel rapping. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This Administration and Finance co-posted the Committee of the Whole meeting is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings provided by the order. Persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so by going to the Zoom link that is posted on the Salem website under meetings, or it is also aired live on SATV. All votes taken by this body shall be by roll call vote. So, City Council Committee on Administration and Finance co-posted the Committee of the Whole met remotely on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the matters listed below. Notice this meeting was posted on June 16th, 2020 at 12:56 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. I see, as I look through the Brady Bunch window here, I see all committee members are present. Also present from the Committee of the Whole are Councilor Morcillo, Councilor Medor, Councilor McCarthy, and Councilor Presnewski. We have today on our agenda, we have the fiscal year 21 operating budget meetings and capital improvement plans for the following departments: police, fire, harbor master, inspectional services, including public property, building, gas, plumbing, board of appeals, and fixed costs, electrical, health, and capital improvement plans for all aforementioned departments. The order in which we will start things is we will do inspectional and health related services, and electrical will do those services first. Those should be shorter discussions, and then we'll move into public safety and start with the harbor master and then move through fire and police. So with that, we will start today with the electrical department. That is page 8188 in your books. So if you guys get to those, we'll start. I see John Giardi, our city electrician, sitting in my camera center top. So,
hi, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Always good to see you. If you can.
Same here, Josh.
Start us off, even if it is virtual. Still nice to see you.
Thank you. Likewise.
So, you want to run us through your department for the year? And
okay. Basically, for the capital improvement plan, we have ADA walk signal buttons, trying to update the ADA requirements, throughout the city. And we were able to get $10,000 to do that. The ADA push buttons run about $600 a piece. So we anticipate doing a few intersections, bringing them up to where they should be as far as being ADA compliant, along with our smart signal program, which will also be adding more ADA push buttons, along with the intersections we are upgrading. We secured, suppose, $70,000 for Raleigh Plaza LED lighting. I think the council and the city will be very impressed in about 3 or 4 months from now with the project we are entailing, and I don't think, the good news is that I don't believe we're going to have to use the $70,000 to get it completed. And Raleigh Plaza, as everybody knows, is pretty much dark in a lot of areas because that's the first generation of LED lighting that was installed in the city. So it's over 10 years old. It's outlived its lifetime. So we'll be upgrading that. And the next line item would be the smart signalization, which we are just beginning phase 2, which is bringing us up North Street from Margin Street. It'll go all the way up to School Street in regards to upgrading those signals. We've secured from last year and this year roughly about $325,000 to do that. We're on track. Hope to have 2 intersections completed within the next couple of months. I know I've received some comments in regards to safety problems, and we are addressing those, and we're not finished with them, and I ask everybody to be patient at this time until we get the intersections 100% complete, and we will be discussing those with the council and the public in regards to, we all have learning curves to learn about these upgrades, which will help everybody in the long run, because pedestrians will actually be moving faster and the vehicles will be sitting in less traffic for less amounts of time. So the people will move faster and the vehicles move faster, so nobody's wasting time, which to me, that makes a lot of sense. And the next item on the capital improvement for the electrical is, there's a Ford Escape. That's one of the first Ford Escapes that were bought with the motor pool. They were bought in conjunction with other departments, and they are starting to feel the transmissions have outlived their usefulness, so it's pretty close. Steve Tassinari recommended that we put in for an upgrade for that car, so we are. And the next vehicle is a Ford F-350 pickup truck. Utility truck, which services all the department's needs and the city's needs in regards to, it's got all the tools on it that the guys need to troubleshoot different systems throughout the city. So that wraps up the capital improvement side, Mr. Chairman. You want me to keep going as far as the budgetary? What do you want to?
If you want to go into the personnel side, I know you were looking for another person and that didn't make it in.
Yes. Okay. We were able to get another person. His name is Christopher Rouse. He was with the town of Arlington, Mass, and he came to us about 3 months ago, and he's a fine gentleman. Mm-hmm. He's doing a great job. He lives in Salem, which is a plus for him, and it's a plus for us, because we need him available to us, sometimes in a quick mode when it comes to emergency situations. Mm-hmm. So Christopher's a hard worker. He's talented. He's got all the licenses he needs to be able to work with us, and he's doing a great job. So far, he's worked well with the guys. The guys like him. He likes the guys. Mm-hmm. And we're getting the work done. We've made a lot of progress in the last 3 months, almost 4 months. And so that's that side of things. Now, the personnel, otherwise, has not changed. The positions of the wire inspectors have stayed the same. Principal clerk is the same. Signal maintainer, and myself, the city electrician. We have from proposal from the mayor to reduce our salaries by a few $100s. Everyone will be getting that, which the notices were all sent out, and I believe that, I don't think there's a problem with anybody like yielding to this. I think it's incumbent upon us to help the city any way we can. The mayor's trying to keep everybody employed, which we all want to do, and I think it's a benefit to everyone if we all cooperate with this plan. So that takes care of the personnel side, and if you want, I can give you a quick rundown of the operating budget, Mr. Chairman, if you want.
I'm pretty familiar with it at this point, but I'll say some of the members might have questions on that.
Okay.
Do any members of the body have questions for John? Councillor Dibble, not being a member of the committee.
Being a member of the committee. Mr. Chair?
Mm-hmm.
I am a member of the committee.
Not a F.
Oh, you know what? I apologize. Apologize.
Not a problem.
I cannot believe I just said that. Mr. Giardi, I've known you for a lot of years. You get a lot done with a pretty small budget, so I thank you for what you do for the city of Salem.
I appreciate the comment, Councilor.
I've seen you in action for more than 3 decades, so it's been beautiful. I'm concerned that your new hire, and you mentioned his name,
Christopher Rouse, yeah.
he's not showing in the budget, so will you come back before us for a supplemental?
He's here.
He is here, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's the first person in the Ask Me page.
Oh, okay. I see another one here that says new hire on the signal maintainer. Are you looking to hire another one?
That was a wish. That was on the wish list.
Okay, and that didn't get funded. Okay.
Correct.
Hopefully we can fund that for you for next year.
Thank you.
You know,
Appreciate the thought.
Thank you, John, for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for what you do.
any other questions from members of the committee? Or, okay, Councilor Riccardi and then Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to also echo, sorry, loud noise in the background. I also want to echo the thank yous. Thank you, Mr. Jordy. You've been extremely responsive to my numerous requests, and I will be more patient as well with the smart signaling. I did have a question on the CIP funding. So we had conversations earlier in the year around the lighting at Leslie's Retreat Park. And I believe you mentioned you were going to be requesting some CIP money for upgrading because we did a budget transfer over the years or earlier in the year to just kind of put a Band-Aid on the current poor lighting situation at Leslie's Retreat. And I think you said you had a longer term plan. And I just wanted to make sure that that is still in the forecast and something that you're still looking to do.
Yes, Councilor Riccardi, that is. And if our plan works out at Raleigh Plaza, we've engineered a new plan to bring Raleigh Plaza up to a major upgrade in regards to lighting LED-wise. We thought we were going to have to spend a lot more money on lighting than we're going to currently spend. It's been a joint venture between my guys and myself. We all collaborated together to engineer this new thing that we're coming up with, and I think everybody's going to be happy with it in the next 3 or 4 months. So it will come to fruition, and that will be part of it. If it worked at Raleigh Plaza, we will do Leslie Retreat 100%.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dominguez, you had a question, and then Councilor Flynn has his hand up also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. John. He's one of the best on his department, and his department also is very, very well responds. Thank you so much. My question is regarding, you asked for $9,500 and some change, but you're only getting $793. The cut that we know that everybody's getting impact your functionality to do everything you say based on the projection you have for the year, or you have any difficulties getting, for example, sunlight in some area? You need to cut maybe, say, if you was planning to do 10 lights, but because of the cut might affect you. Can you elaborate on what item you might be short, if any, by the cut that you're suffering right now?
Okay. Councilor, really, we're not short. I mean, what the mayor said, she cut maybe $5,000 out of one area, which we can live with. That's not a problem. That's under training and certification, which we overestimated in that field anyway, so it really wasn't a cut, to be honest. It was just that it was a typo on our behalf, and I apologize for that, and the mayor caught that. And as far as any other cuts, we really didn't suffer any real cuts in regards, because our department is basically like a fix-it type department. Like, we went up 10% on the electricity in regards to street lighting, traffic lighting. That was a given, that everybody was told to do that because the cost of electricity went up over the last year or so. And hopefully it's expected to go back down again. But for right now, we had it funded at a 10% higher level. As far as building, equipment, maintenance, the other parts of the budget actually remained intact, Council Dominguez. Did I answer your question, or is that?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. President. John, I just want to say thank you as well. I've seen your work firsthand. Whenever I had to reach out to you, you've always been very responsive. I see your crews out there every day, and can you please give them the best from us on the City Council? Thank them for doing a great job out there, keeping the city
I certainly
running.
will.
Thank you, John.
Councilor Flynn.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate you too. You guys have been very supportive to us, and we try our best. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions for John? Councilor McCarthy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to John. John, how long have we been doing this?
Oh, since 1980.
Yeah. All right. It's been way too long. John, you know I don't have to say it. You and your crew do yeoman's work. Just a quick question with regards to Raleigh Plaza. Are we also going to address some of those Derby Street lights as well at the same time?
Good news for you, okay? And as I promised,
I always love good news from you, John.
it's taken me a little bit longer to get this completed. As I told you last year, the warranty did not hold up on the Derby Street lights. It failed after like 2.5 years. So we went back to the manufacturer and secured 48 new lights for Derby Street, okay? We have about 24 of them up now. We're about halfway complete. I got a full crew now, so like the turnaround time should be a little bit quicker than anticipated. So we just sent back a shipment to be repaired. See, like what's happened is that they send us 12, we send them back 12, they send us 12. So it's like a turnaround of a week or 2 weeks in between installing the lights. So within, I'd say, 2 months to 3 months, Derby Street should be fully done. And while I'm on that, Bob, in your ward, that we were down to Willows. I think we have the Willows about 100% done in regards to lighting. If you've seen any lights that aren't working, please let us know.
I will. Appreciate it. Once again, thank you for all your hard work.
You're welcome, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from city councilors? Seeing none, if any members of the committee would like to make a motion there, Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to approve the personnel on the electrical department of 380, 187 with 37 cents.
So Councilor Dominguez moves to approve the electrical personnel budget of $380,187.37. So I have a second, seconded by Councilor Flynn. Seeing no further discussion, I'll take the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. And if there is a motion on the electrical expenses budget of $412,940, made by Councilor Flynn, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. No further discussion. I'll call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the department expenses, 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. And we have the departmental total of $793,127.37. Motion to approve by Councilor Dominguez, seconded by Councilor Flynn. Calling the roll, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the departmental total of $793,127.37, we have 5 councilors voting, all in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, councilors.
Hope to see you in person someday.
Yes,
Soon, I hope, Jeff.
thank you.
All right, thank you, John. So next we will go to the Health Department. We've seen a lot of Dave lately. Got 179 for that page. And John will be waving goodbye to us and go off on his day. So, David, we see a lot of you on Zoom lately. If you can go into what's going on this year and some of the issues you're running into, which because we know about quite a few of them, but.
Yeah, so I think obviously the biggest issue that we've run into this year has been COVID-19. You know, we knew it was coming. We hopefully didn't expect it to be what it turned out to be, but it turned out to be worse than expected. So that really took control of our department, and that's what we've been dealing with since sometime around mid-March. You know, some of the things that we had planned to do or we're doing routinely, inspections, things like that, those were put on the back burner, and we're starting to pick up again now as we move into reopening phases. So really the biggest thing that we've dealt with has been the pandemic this year.
Okay. Any changes, any major changes that you want to spotlight, or things that we're going to have to look for this coming year?
So there are no major changes. We did put in to have one inspector move from part-time to full-time, but with the way the budget turned out, that's not going to happen this year, so we will revisit it again next year. You know, I think everything has, all the other line items and the expenses have been cut. It looks by the minimum of 10%, so, you know, it's really, at this point, a bare bones budget.
Hey, any members of the committee, or I see Councilor Dominguez and Councilor Morcillo have questions. So Councilor Dominguez as a member of the committee first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, David, once again. I know we seeing each other some of the meetings, and your job has been very appreciated, especially now in the pandemic. My question is related to the pandemic. I hear in the news that in the last week, 8 days, it went up to 1 million nationwide. People tested positive. We, as a city, I know we're watching that to happen. Is any idea what are you doing to make a stronger effort to maintain the way we are right now? Wonderful job that you have done, mayor and administration, not completely, and all the departments. But any way that you can update us on something maybe different that you're going to do in order to maintain it the way it is?
Yep, so we're working with the administration to look at a community testing model, and in particular in some of our senior housing facilities, 27 Charter Street, Morenci Manor, the Dalton House, we'd start there. They just did a testing model down in the Point neighborhood, and I think they did approximately 100 tests over there. You know, some of the things that we're watching as trends of what happened with all of the protests. The state did, I think, 17,000 tests last on June 17th and another 15,000 on June 18th. They saw a 2.5% positivity rate out of those 32,000 tests, which is very encouraging. You know, it looked like a lot of people were wearing face coverings, but I guess the big thing we'll be working on is that that testing model, in particular in the senior housing facilities as we go forward. That'll probably take place sometime in the fall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the work that you and your staff have been doing, along with the board. As the liaison to the Board of Health, I'm impressed by their professionalism and their advocacy. And I know you always say that this is your job, but I think you guys have gone above and beyond your normal job. And so I just want to say thank you. You guys have been a terrific, you guys have just been really good, and you've been so responsive to my emails and calls, even in the midst of all of this. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. It has been a true team effort, and as you said, it is my job. So, you know, this is what we prepare for, and you know, unfortunately, we're living it today. But hopefully, in the near future, we'll be in a better place, a much better place, more so than we are today.
I look forward to us getting back to the more classic things that you guys have done, like making sure all the rats are killed and making sure the restaurants are clean and all those kind of things.
Me too. I look forward to a more mundane time.
Right. Any other questions for David? Councilor Madore, and then Councilor Dominguez has another question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, I know you've probably heard this several times, but can't be said enough how appreciative I am of all your work. Speaking of more mundane times, you've also been very helpful in addressing some of the neighborhood issues I have lately, you and your staff. And I know that we've been focusing on a hoarding case recently, and I appreciate your efforts around that. And that's related to my question. I know that a lot of the services you provide through the health department sometimes are in partnership or overlaps with the community impact unit. Can you talk about how some of these working relationships could be more efficient in regards to funding, whether some of the allocation to the CIU can be better utilized in your health department, and whether that translates to a specific position that you were hoping to fund before you knew the pandemic was going to hit? I know that your department doesn't have a huge emphasis on health services per se, but is that something that you've considered as something that you would like to invest in the future as a department?
So I wouldn't necessarily advocate for transfer of funds from the CIU. We work very closely with them, along with building, electrical, the plumbing inspector. We have great relationships with interdepartmental relationships. If there's something going on, we work well together as far as notifying each other. The fire department is right there when we need them as well. We did get a community health and wellness coordinator in the budget last year, which was a huge accomplishment. She has been instrumental in getting things like the Mac Park Gardens up and running, dealing with a lot of food inequity issues. But we are looking to expand her role so that it's not all about food. We'd like to see her working on other issues, childhood obesity and the opioid epidemic and things like that. So I don't know that reallocating money to fund the position in my office would be the right thing to do necessarily. I'd like to maintain those relationships that we have the way we have them, because without those relationships, we wouldn't accomplish a whole lot. I've spent, most of you know that I worked for the city previously for about 12 years. I left for a few years and came back. And I spent a lot of time in those 12 years cultivating those relationships, so that when something like this that you mentioned before comes up, we have an approach that will work to get the situation resolved. And when I say get resolved, I'm not necessarily saying that that property needs to be 100% empty for the person to reoccupy. It just needs to be safe. And we deal with a lot of other organizations, North Shore Elder Services and the Council on Aging and the social work staff over there. So I think we have good relationships and we have a good team here in Salem, and we can accomplish a lot with what we have, I think. Does it always help to have more staff? Absolutely. But we all understand what the times are like today, and as long as I'm not losing staff at this point, I'll be satisfied. In a year or 2 years, if things get back to a little bit of normalcy, then we'll be looking to increase staff levels, I think. But we understand what's in front of us today, budget-wise and economic-wise. So to transfer funds to my department, I don't know. I'd appreciate it, but I think that the police department is just as important.
Thank you, and I think that's what I needed to hear from you, because I know that our community impact unit does excellent work, and I am very grateful for all their work. And I just want to kind of shed light a little bit on this relationship for members of the public and other members of the council, because I do feel strongly that our CIU, their work should be a model type of work for a lot of communities, if not in our state, across the country. And your relationship with them exemplifies how successful that could be, regardless of where the funding lives. And I'm glad you highlighted Carrie's work because I've also been very grateful for her work, and I wish she could do a lot more, and I know that she wants to do more, so I'm glad to hear that, and I'll keep a mental note for next year.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at ways to expand her role a little bit, and I do think that communities have looked at what the Community Impact Unit here in Salem and its origins and how it operates, and they have taken that model and implemented it in some communities. So it's definitely a model that people are looking at.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm all set.
Thank you. Councilor Dominguez, you had another question or comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna be brief. Dave, I see on the personnel salary part-time that you asked for 15 some change, but at the end you get 43 some change, and the previous year, 2020, you got 40. Can you explain why this salary part-time mean because of the pandemic went up, or this is something you projected to?
No, so originally that would have been that 43,000 approximately number. We had requested that one part-time employee be moved to full-time, and initially it appeared that that would happen, but with the budget crisis and the pandemic, there just wasn't money to fund that position. So that position was reverted back to a part-time position.
I see. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the council? Okay, if there aren't any, then if a member wants to make a motion. Councilor Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion for the Health Department personnel side of the budget to approve $495,563.15.
So, thank you. Councilor Flynn moves to accept the health personnel budget of $495,583.15, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the health personnel budget, 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the matter carries. I would then look for a motion on health expenses of $58,029. So moved by Councilor Dominguez and seconded by Councilor Flynn. I will call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the health expenses budget of $58,029, 5 councilors voting, all in the affirmative, none in the negative. That matter carries. And so a motion on the departmental total of $553,592.15 is offered by Councilor Flynn, seconded by Councilor Hapworth. To call the roll, no further discussion. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the health departmental budget, total departmental budget of $553,592.15, we have 5 councilors voting, all in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Thank you, Dave. And you and John can all go home now, or keep watching this if it really is that exciting. We just check the next section.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Hope it gets easier soon. All right, let me just check. We're going to go to inspectional services next. And that, just take 1 second. $8,165. That'd be tab 16. So for this, we have Tom St. Pierre. He is, we have under inspectional service, so everybody's aware there's multiple items associated with this. there are personnel and expenses, but then we also have fixed costs and Board of Appeals departmental information as well that we have to cover. So multiple services under here. And this is where the buildings are paid for. So Tom?
So my budget is probably one of the less exciting budgets in the city. It pretty much stays the same every year.
Oh, they're all thrilling.
Yeah. There's no major changes this year. The mayor and the finance director have avoided any major cuts, which we appreciate. There's hardly any cuts, which is appreciated. We don't run very fat over here. Most of the things are expenses and utilities, so you can't really change that anyhow. And then his salaries. On the capital side, there was a $30,000 request for us to do small AAB/ADA improvements throughout the city. And that was a direct result of the report that came out last year with a number of deficiencies the city buildings had. And that will enable us to do the smaller items. The bigger items are being handled separately, but this will let us do the railing, the guards, things that we felt very strongly that should be fixed. They're very easy to do, just require a minimal amount of money. And $30,000 there will allow us to do quite a bit of the smaller things. So if you have any questions, I really don't know how much you need to know on this budget or want to know about the budget, I should say. But I'm here for any questions.
No, I'm up for any questions from members. Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tom, also for your service and your professional response when we approach you on any issue. My question is regarding to the new normal. Now we face a new way of living. As a department, I know you're aware that must be the protocol from the state might change in some of the things that we do. For example, restaurants are allowed to outside. I know your department might not be always seeing that, but is any change on your policy that the public need to know on where you inspect now the businesses based on the new normal?
So the answer to that is we were classified during the shutdown as essential services. So we never shut down. We continued, worked alongside everyone else. We did alternate staff a little bit to limit exposure, but we've never stopped. And inspections now are back to 100%. There's really no delays. And we've strived very hard to keep things moving, keep construction going. I know that didn't sit well with everybody, but it's a big driver in the economy, and we felt it was important to keep things going. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tom from members of the committee or other councilors in attendance? If there aren't any, this is one of the, as mentioned, this is one of the more straightforward budget items, but if there aren't any further questions, if members would like to make motions, then we can do that. Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to accept the personnel on public property of $499,863.23.
Actually, hold on a second. That's not the correct item there, so hang on. The correct total is on 168. It's on the next page, and it's in the bottom departmental total. The recap sheet here is missing the column.
I apologize.
No, not a problem. I just want to be clear.
So on page 68, you mean the
168, the department total. And that would be the figure, the 630, 166.34 is the department total. The page after the one you were initially looking at. That, for some reason, that one was printed without the FY21 column in place.
So is it the 202? This is what it is, total?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the FY 2021 Management Board members and part-time salaries. Page 8-168.
Yeah, I see it. So.
And then the expenses are on the next page. Or sorry, the 2 pages after that.
So the total is 202?
The total is 630,166.34.
Okay.
That's the correct total. Do you want to make your motion on that?
Yeah, I make my motion on that on 630,166.34.
Yep. So Councilor Dominguez moves to approve the department personnel total of $630,166.34. That's seconded by Councilor Flynn. So I will call the roll on that. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the departmental total of $630,166.34, 5 members voting, all in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Our non-payroll expenses, for that total, we get to 8,171. So if there's a motion on the total of $52,100. Councilor Dominguez, so moved. Seconded by Councilor Hapworth. Let's see further. I'll call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the departmental expenses of $52,100, 5 members voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Now we go to page 8173, which has everything in the right place. And that is Board of Appeals expenses in the amount of $1,200. Do I have a motion on that? Councilor Dominguez, so moved?
Yes.
Seconded by, looking for hands, Councilor Flynn. So, seeing no further discussion on that, roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the Board of Appeals expenses budget, $1,200, 5 councilors voting, all in the affirmative. The matter carries. The last thing we are doing here is page 8176, which is for inspectional services fixed costs. This covers things like the lease on City Hall Annex, postage, electricity, oil for heat, et cetera, and some portion of phone bills and all the rest. So we account things accordingly. So that total there is $1,369,366.34. The bulk of that's not the that's the full departmental total. The fixed cost total is $685,900. My mistake. So if there's a motion on the fixed expense of $685,900, so moved by Councilor Hapworth and seconded by Councilor Flynn. I saw the hand up there. No further discussion. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the fixed cost budget of $685,900, all members voting in the affirmative, the matter carries. The overall departmental total of $1,369,366.34. Do I have a motion on that? So move to approve by Councilor Hapworth, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. So on the final departmental budget total, I'll call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the departmental total of $1,369,366.34, we have 5 councilors voting in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, councilors, and Laurie and her staff for making this pretty easy for us going through. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now we will start our journey into public safety. We will start with the harbor master.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen.
Your sound is pretty awful at the moment, though.
Well,
Is your connection bad, or?
can you hear me now? Is it a little better?
A little bit better. Not much.
Sure, let me try moving. See if I can get better.
No. I'll tell you what, if you walk close to your router or something.
One second.
No, not really coming in, so we'll give you another second, and then assuming you don't get back in there, we'll jump ahead to fire and jump back to you if need be. You can always jump off and come back on the call if that doesn't work, or wait. I saw him for a second there. No, we'll skip ahead and or unless, let's see if we can hear him this time. I don't think it's going to work though.
Any better?
No. You can disconnect and come back in a little bit. We'll do fire now.
I'll go ahead and change my connection and then I'll get back.
Yeah, we'll see you back in here. We'll do fire now. Because it's going to take a little while, so we'll steam forward. So changing our pattern for the moment, because of that, we'll go on to do the fire department, and I will note that Councillor Flynn has to recuse himself from it because this is his day job. So we'll see you in a few minutes.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we have Chief Junta here to join us, and looks like his internet connection is working fine, unlike our harbor masters. So, Jerry, if you want to start with us.
Sure, Councilor, thank you. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes, we can hear.
Excellent. Good evening, councilors and others on the Zoom call. I would like to start off by thanking everyone for your support for the Salem Fire Department over the years. 2020 has been an epic year with many hurdles that have never been crossed before. Since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, the fire department has been running fully staffed with 4 engines and 2 ladder trucks in service. The men and women of the department have stepped up and have served the city without hesitation, going on calls every day with the uncertainty of becoming infected. They have used their training and personal protective equipment to safely navigate through these trying times. To this date, the entire fire department remains COVID-free. Knock on wood. When we were preparing for the 2021 budget for the Salem Fire Department, we were not aware of what havoc could be wreaked by a pandemic. I had discussions with Mayor Driscoll about expanding the department to keep up with the expansion of the city. We were going to achieve this through a Staffing Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, also called a SAFER grant, which I applied for to increase the manpower from 88 personnel to 92. This grant allows municipalities to share the cost at the FEMA rate of 75% to 25% for the city. The cost is good for the first 2 years, and on the third year, FEMA would spend 35% and the city would spend 65%. The cost share has been waived by the pandemic, and FEMA is contributing 100% of the cost. The stipulation of the grant is to increase the manpower from the contractual amount, which in Salem was 88, to 92. I'm hoping to file a hardship and possibly get back the 4 positions we are losing in this current budget. We also put in for 2 assistance to firefighters grants. The first was for self-contained breathing apparatus, which are about to time out due to their age. The other was to replace a 24-year-old engine. The grant of the cost share for this FEMA is 90% of their funding and 10% for the city. There was a supplemental grant, AFGS, and that was for PPE and cleaning supplies due to the COVID-19. These are all competitive grants with no guarantees. The AFG for SCBA was $180,000, and the city share was a little over $16,000. The AFG for the apparatus was 600,000, and the city share would be 54,545. The AFG-S supplemental was 14,800, and the city share would be 1,352. And the SAFER grant over the 3 years was 1,002,384. And if it's correct in my understanding that they're covering 100%, that would be a zero cost for the city for the first 3 years. Since the budget process started for fiscal year 2021, we went from looking at 92 uniformed personnel to 84. This swing in manpower will decrease the amount of the time ladder 1 will be in service substantially. This current fiscal year, we were able to keep the ladder in approximately 7 out of the 12 months. This was largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which triggered the Stafford Act. This declaration of the FEMA Public Assistance Grant, DR 4496, will pay for most of the overtime from January 20th to today and beyond. There is a second grant, the CARES Act, that will supplement the Public Assistance Grant, and I believe the city's on point for $2.8 million for that grant. And we're struggling through it like everybody else, and we know there's cuts and everybody has to take some of it, and we're prepared to work with what we have. I also like to say that it's been a pleasure dealing with the other first responders in the city, the police, Atlantic Ambulance, also inspectional services, health, and building and electrical. They've all done a great job working together through all of this trying time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the City Council? Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank Chief for his service and his dedication for the city of Salem. Great community support all over across the city. I happen to attest that last Sunday on Father's Day, they was working, representing the best of the department. And I want to publicly thank you for that, along with the Chief of Police, which I'm going to also say my good comments. But without you, with the good service that you provide to our city, I think that our city has been very lucky to have you. So thank you so much. My question related to the budget, you mentioned you have 82 firefighters at this moment, and you request 92. That's, if I'm not mistaken, that was what you said during your speech.
Right now, Councilor, we have 84, and we lost 4 of them through attrition. We didn't have to take any layoffs.
Yeah, my question for that is, are you planning to replace those 4 positions that you just mentioned, maybe throughout any other grant or any type of possibility to have it done? Because I think that we need more. I agree with you. The most we have, the better we support our family in any given situation. Okay.
I'm hoping to be able to put in a hardship for the 4 positions that I did apply for on the SAFER grant. There's no guarantees in the grant, so I'm not even sure if I'm going to be awarded it. But if I am, it's supposed to be to supplement from 88 to 92, and I'm going to apply for hardship and see if I can at least get the 4 positions back that currently I'd be losing due to the budget cuts.
Thank you.
I do have one thing to add, if you don't mind, with the budget. On one of the pages, there's the page for the AFSCME 1818 union, and it's section 8-132 on my paperwork.
Yep.
In that, there's a Francis O'Keefe on there. He was retired and not on there, and now he's on there again, and I don't know how that happened, but he shouldn't be on there.
Okay. Got it. We had another name that had wound up being reinserted in another department as well. I think it was part of the whole rush on everything to try and get this all modified and get all the updates done. President Councilor Hepworth, I saw you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Chief. Just for my own, just for some clarity, I'm trying to understand the differences between these stipends. So it's the firefighter rank stipend, the fringe stipends, and the specialty stipend. Wonder if you could give a little more detail on what those entail.
Okay, sure. Yes. I have Cynthia DeCherico here, my assistant, and she's going to explain it to you. Okay?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yep.
So the firefighter rank stipend was a stipend that they developed a couple years ago. If not, I've been here for 10 years and it's been there. So it's essentially a stipend that goes to the firefighters only for their training. 10 years ago, when the lieutenants, captains, and deputies all got a bump, this is kind of the way to like give the firefighters a little bit of a bonus. So it's $500 for every firefighter each year. The fringe stipends on here, let me see, which one is the fringe? The senior master veteran is another stipend that they get based on longevity. It's based off of 5, 10, and 15 years. The specialty pay is a stipend that goes to our EMT coordinator, our color guard members, and our training officer, and that's $500 per person. There's 10 people on the color guard, one EMT training, and one EMT coordinator and one training coordinator. And then we also have a car seat incentive. So we have 4 trained firefighters to install car seats for the public, and they get a small stipend for that as well.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think I missed the fringe stipends portion, or I may not have been understanding it.
Which one does it say?
It's $307,800 was the total on fringe.
Oh,
stipend.
that's, sorry. In mine, it's listed the senior master veteran. It's a stipend that you get depending on how many years. So at 5 years, you get $3,150. At 10 years, you get $4,000, and at your 15 year, you get $4,850. And that's a yearly stipend that they get in December.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To kind of keep going off of Councilor Happer's questions, because I had the same question, I just wanted to clarify. So the fringe stipend sounded like it was more of a longevity stipend, or was the longevity line item different? The fringe stipend to me sounded like it was the length of time.
It's just based, the dollar amount is based on the amount of time. So once they hit 5 years is when they can first start getting it. The longevity counts towards their weekly pay, and that's based off of, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, that goes up. So the longevity on this isn't a stipend. The longevity is just built into their pay. The senior master veteran fringe stipend is a one-time payment in December, but the dollar amount depends on how long they've been here. And it's just those $3 amounts. So after 15 years, you always get the $4,850. It doesn't go higher than that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, another question on the salary line items. Just overtime, just out of curiosity, and my wondering, is overtime based off of a 40-hour work week? So is it anything over 40 hours? Or is there a different calculation for what means overtime?
So their salary schedule is actually based on a 42-hour work week, because they work 48 hours a week. So when you average it over 5 weeks, it comes out to 42 hours. So anything over their 42-hour work week is considered overtime. They're contractually given 8 days and 8 nights per firefighter or officer. And then anything else in overtime is based off of mutual aids. If we have a fire and we need callbacks, Halloween, haunted happenings, all of that stuff is the extra overtime.
Gotcha. I guess I'm just curious too, is there any sort of cap of what one can do for a week? So we're not overworked,
Yes.
with too many hours?
More than 36 hours in a week. So it's their 36 hours in a row. So it's their 24-hour overtime, and then they can 24 hours work schedule. Then they can work one overtime, but then they have to have a day off in between.
Gotcha. Thank you. And then just one last question, another general curiosity question on the expenses. In the fire protective clothing, it looks like there might be two lines, or is it a separate line for the last two items, the purchase of replacement PPE? And then it looks like the second line says helmets, and it's $27,000. So I'm just generally curious if helmets are $27,000, or if that line should be broken out.
On the detailed one. Hold on one second.
So I'm on page 134, sorry.
Yes.
The first section.
It's not helmets, it shouldn't be just for helmets. It's supposed to be their whole
Ensemble.
uniform, their whole thing. I think it somehow got split into two lines. It's instead of just all being on one line. Like, because how helmets is supposed to be a continuation of the first part, so it's.
So is it supposed to be two totals?
So it's
I think no, it's supposed to be one total. The 27 and the 11.7 should be one number, and someone just broke it out into two.
So it's supposed to be 38.7?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. That's it. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do. I want to comment too, in our current state of celebrations that we're having every night with fireworks. I just want to say thank you for your quick responsiveness. We've had a few small fires break out actually over in North Salem with the fireworks. And personally, we called, I think it was 5 days ago, and Engine 2 was over in under 2 minutes to Furlong Park. So it was great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee or members of the city council? Councilor Dibble. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, it's good to see you.
You as well.
Yeah, can we follow up a little bit on the staffing levels that you have? I know you said 84 people, but earlier you said that your department has been fully staffed since COVID started, I think you said. So specifically, have we lost employees during the past year and they weren't replaced, and that has brought us down to 84 people? I'd like to know a little bit more. Who are we missing, or what, not by name, but what rank are we missing? And were those left empty the entire year? Are we really been shorthanded at 84 for the whole year?
Councilor, right now, I'll name the names. Dennis Lavasa was a deputy chief. He retired quite a bit ago, and we started the process of hiring, and we hit a little snag in the hiring process for that civil service job. That was held up. Then COVID-19 came along, and we couldn't proceed with the process because we couldn't have the people go and get their physicals or anything because everything was shut down. And in that meantime, Lieutenant Rich Brennan retired, firefighter Rick Avesian, and on the 29th, which is next Monday, John Monahan, a captain, will be all done and retired. So that's the 4 positions. All the people of rank have been replaced. There have been promotions. There just haven't been firefighters hired on the end.
Yeah, I think it's very important that if it makes sense and we have the appropriate manpower at the right training, they pass the exams, etc., that we hire from within, much like when I lobby for you to get this position.
Right.
Actually, Chief, I'd like to apologize. I didn't lobby for you. There were 2 good candidates from within, I felt. And I thought that we should send a message to have the chief come from within, because then that new hire, the new firefighter, lieutenant, doesn't matter. They'll look to advance up the rank and know that they can become chief someday or possibly become chief.
Correct.
So I think it's a big morale booster if we have qualified people to hire from within. I speak with a little experience on some fires. I had 2 fires in 2 different houses when I was growing up as an 8 and 10-year-old. And then recently, last year, my here locally, your team came to my house. The local police officer showed up first when my future daughter-in-law collapsed at my house. I was the only one home. I called for an ambulance, boom, thinking the ambulance would be the first one here. The police came first, and right behind them, right on the tails, in walked a couple of your firefighters from Engine 5, and they stabilized her in record time. And then when everything was good, the ambulance finally showed up. So you guys did your job, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate that.
You have my full support, and I want to make sure, we'll talk about this offline, I want to make sure that your department is fully staffed and fully funded. And for me to hear that you're at 84, you want to be at 88, but you want to be at 92, I'm not sure which number really you want to be at. I know you don't want to be at 84.
Correct.
So if it's 88, which is the staffing requirement, or if it's your wish to be at 92, we need to hear that, and we need to make sure that it's in next year's budget. This year is really, really tricky. If you are short and you feel you're short, you have open ears here in this council. We'll listen to you. I know the mayor will listen to you. We need to make sure the city is protected. So you're doing a phenomenal job, but if you are short as the chief, you need to let us know.
I will, Counselor. Thank you.
Have your two recruits that you mentioned there, have they come out of the academy yet?
Yes, they have.
Okay, and they are on the force.
And they're on the force, correct.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. I know the mayor has popped in. Well, Councilor Madore had a question, but I know the mayor has also popped in. So if I can, before that, if she wants to comment as to staffing and just what the pattern is, because I know she works with you to develop. You work with her to develop the plan. So.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. I've been listening. I'm sorry, I was just trying to actually.
You 8 jobs at once, I know.
I was trying to eat while, and I didn't want you to disturb the meeting, but I've certainly been listening to all of the budget hearings, and I really thank all of our department heads who are working hard in really difficult circumstances. We clearly are weathering the storm with respect to budget cuts. As you know, this budget is only increasing by a very small amount of resources. And it's not because that's necessarily what we want to do, but it's because we need to balance the budget, and we know there are severe state cuts coming, along with local receipts that have been severely reduced as a result of the coronavirus. So we're hopeful that, as I've said before, this is a placeholder budget as we have a clearer picture on what might be happening, either with state aid being delivered to the community or local receipts, coming in ahead of targets. We'll be in a position to alter current staffing levels, but at present, we've really worked hard to try and share sacrifices. As you know, a number of our employees are taking furloughs so that we can do everything we can to protect jobs. I'm happy that we're not laying off a ton of folks. There happen to be vacancies in both I think police and fire, and in order to balance the budget, unfortunately, we're just not in a position to refill those right now. If that can change, we certainly hope that can be the case as we move forward this year and we have more certainty around what's happening. But with a proposed 15% cut in state budget, that's $5.2 million. And it's really hard to make that up, without reductions coming from somewhere. So most of our budgets are below level funded. And then we do have some fixed costs that are increasing, health insurance, pensions, things like that. So we are trying to make sure that we balance the budget. This is an austere budget. It's, again, not something that we are necessarily happy about, but those are the circumstances we're in. And I can't say enough about the response from all of our department heads, certainly Chief Ginta as well, to try and do as much as possible, knowing that we're resource challenged this year. And frankly, this could be a 2-year cycle. So I really want to be cautious and cognizant of the impacts that this virus is reaping on our recovery efforts. So we're going to be monitoring things, and if we can do more, we will. But at present, I think we want to make sure that we're doing, we're keeping things as safe as we can, but the budget definitely needs to be balanced. So happy to take any questions that folks may have.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Madore, you had a question for the chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did. I noticed that under personnel education incentive, I noticed that the actuals are much lower than budgeted, and especially for this fiscal year, it's even lower than the 2 previous years. Can you explain why that is and whether this is the proposed $74,000, $167.45 is justified?
Sure.
So last year, or 3 years ago when the contract was restructured with the fire department, they took out the education that was getting paid weekly and changed it into 2 stipends, a $2,000 stipend for a associate's degree and a $4,000 stipend for a bachelor's degree. So those numbers increased because before it was a lower number. So you got like $926, I believe, was the associate's degree, and $1,326 was the bachelor's degree. So they pulled that out and turned it into a once-a-year stipend, which just started this year. So that number upped, obviously, because there was more money needed to pay out the stipend.
So does that mean that these funds that are not spent are rolled over to the following year? Because if it's going to be covered in a stipend, then why is it budgeted as a separate line item?
It is spent this year. So it just went out. It went out for the last pay period of June. So on Thursday, they're getting it. So that's why you still see the money in there, because it was to be paid on June 25th of this year.
So with year-to-date expenses, it had not yet gone out.
Correct.
Correct. You're saying.
Yes.
So do you know the actual numbers that will be paid out by the end of the fiscal year?
Yes. So currently we just paid $80,000 in the stipend, which is more money because people earned a degree this year than was actually budgeted for. So we had to move some money around to cover the stipend. So if that line is completely depleted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Any other questions for the chief from members of the committee or Councilor Dominguez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last question that I have for the chief. By any chance, can you tell us if you are complete with the what do you call the diverse needed to be in the force? I know that you hired some member of the Latino community lately, but are you have any other vacancies to be filled, or you already complied with part of the requirement?
Chief, you're on mute. You may need to unmute yourself. There
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Not used to these Zoom meetings yet. We're currently at 8 Spanish-speaking firefighters, and we're trying to get to 20% of the 88, so we have a few to go.
That's an important criteria, presumably in new hires.
That mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. That mean with this situation right now, that's been freeze. Maybe when we recover, you're going to continue to maybe fulfill that 20%.
Yes, and it's done. We take members off of both lists. We go off the regular hiring list and the Spanish-speaking list. We go back and forth. I believe the count is 3 to 1 for 3 off the regular list and 1 off the Spanish-speaking list. Unless we're hiring 2, and it just makes it easier to hire off a single list, we do it that way. And that's what happened with the last list.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions from members for the chief? If there aren't any, we have. If there are no other questions, you'd take motions. Otherwise, but please ask questions if you have them. And also remember that Councilor Flynn is recused from this portion of the meeting, so. Anybody? Councilor Dominguez.
I want to do an motion. We ready for that?
Sure. So okay. you guys can drive that. So if you're ready, take it.
I wanted to entertain a motion to accept or approve the personnel on the fire department for $8,992,847.32.
Okay, so Councilor Dominguez moves to approve the fire personnel budget of $8,992,847.32. Seconded by Councilor Hapworth. So, seeing no further discussion on that, I'll take the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Okay, hang on one second. Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. So on the matter of the fire personnel budget of $8,992,847.32, we have 4 councilors voting, all in the affirmative. 1 member is recused. The matter carries. And if Councilor Dominguez, if you want to make the motion on the fire expenses budget, presumably of $497,017.
I do.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Hapworth. And again, with only 4 members eligible to vote, take the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the fire expenses budget of $497,017, we have 4 members voting in the affirmative, 1 member recused. The matter carries. On the departmental total of $9,489,864.32, we have a motion from Councilor Dominguez, seconded by, waiting for your hand, Councilor Hapworth. So, thank you. I'll call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the fire departmental total of $9,489,864.32, we have 4 members voting, all in the affirmative, 1 member recused. The matter carries. Thank you, Jerry. Now we'll see if Councilor Flynn can return, and we will check to see quickly if Mr. McHugh has been able to get a good internet connection by now. How are we doing this time?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Much better.
How's the sound?
Now it's getting gravelly.
Usually I have a more stable connection here than I do. Usually I have a more stable connection here than Winter Island, so that's what I give a shot for.
Well,
can you still hear me?
Yeah, it's a little iffy at moments, but I can get the gist of things. If you want to talk very briefly, because we can barely hear you, about any short-term issues here.
Okay, so
hold on, we're losing you again. You may want to just go in through your phone, because we've just lost you.
So what I'd like to start with is the personnel budget.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot.
We'll try this again, I think, through his phone. There we go. Now we just got to unmute you from your phone. And
How's that?
much better.
Okay, I'm going to leave meeting here.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to start with the personnel budget if I could.
Thank you. Now that we can hear you, you can start any way you want.
Awesome. And I do apologize for that. Usually I have a more stable connection here than I do Winter Island. I'm having any problems in the past. But so when we were requested, obviously, to give a snapshot of level funding 10% and 15%, when we went through the 10%, it was necessary to give some furloughs, basically to myself, and my furloughs would have to be in the wintertime. I'm thankful that the mayor and her finance team opted not to do that. But I did notice when I put in the work for the 10% budget cut and the 15%, the 10% was the one that we decided would be the most tenable, and it didn't seem like it translated. I don't know if the file was or the formulas were corrupted when it went from public into your format, But if you look at the part-time labor, the numbers are considerably inflated. The number for part-time labor last year was $108,097.50. And for this year, I had proposed with a 10% cut, $97,000, not the $147,346.20. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
So, obviously the 108 to the 147,346.20 would have been an abrupt increase. And really what we were looking is to shave off 10% off the part-time labor. The part-time labor, we're pretty fortunate with the part-time labor that we have. We glean our talent from other departments, other agencies. They come in and work for us and share their resources. So I didn't look at cutting their hourly rate. I wanted to be able to man the watch bill, but I did shift the watches around in the way we do business. It was also predicated on less celebrations. No 4th of July this year. Cruise ships have been cut down to 1 for this year, and I suspect that will cancel as well. A lot of the events, the maritime events, have been canceled due to state regulations. So I feel comfortable with going with the part-time labor at $97,000. And that's what I'm proposing.
Okay. So we would put a cut in here of $50,346.
So what we have here is I would have my total labor would be $326,000. Okay. $326,928.51.
Hold on.
And I did talk to Lori and Cheryl about it, and I welcome them to chime in, but I think that was
what is that adjusted total that you would do there? 326 what?
For the labor, total labor, both full FTEs and part-time labor would be $326,928.51.
28.51.
Yep, $326,928.51.
All right, so let me bring up the calculator.
Yep.
And do the math on that. So. So that would be a personnel, that would be a motion to cut harbor master personnel by $50,346.20. If a member would like to make that motion, Councilor Dominguez.
So move.
Seconded by Councilor Hapworth. So on the reduction, hold on. So I have to do this, and I have to do a roll call vote on that motion to reduce by 50,000. So on the motion by Councilor Dominguez to reduce the salaries full and part-time personnel by $50,346.20. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Yes. So on the motion to reduce the amount by $50,346.20, 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. We now have an amended total. Let me just write it down. So we now have an amended personnel total of $326,928.51. If we could take a vote on that portion of things, if there are no other questions, and then if there's questions you want to ask on the expenses side, we can move on to that, I think, because we have a handle on this. So if anybody would like to make a motion on that, so moved by Councilor Flynn. Councilor Flynn moves to accept the amended harbor master personnel total of $326,928.51, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. So on the amended total, call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Counselor Flynn,
Yes.
Counselor Hepworth,
Yes.
Counselor Riccardi,
Yes.
myself, yes. On the amended total of $326,928.51, we have 5 counselors voting, all in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Now, if anybody would like to ask any questions on the expenses side, that would be fine. Danny, any questions? Actually, I'll notice the finance director has her hand up to Lori. If you want to chime in, or
Sorry about that. I'm all set now. That's fine.
okay, so let me just, I have to amend this total here. I'm just writing down the amended totals. Okay, if there are any questions about the expenses line here, otherwise, if not, I would ask if there's a motion on the expenses side for $44,100. Motion to approve by Councilor Dominguez, seconded by Councilor Hapworth. So seeing no further discussion there, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi. And myself, yes. So on the expenses budget of $44,100.
Yes.
Thank you. 5 members voting, all in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. And on the amended departmental total of $371,028.51. Motion to approve by Councilor Dominguez, seconded by Councilor Flynn. So call the roll. Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hepworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi. We lost her for a second there. She's somebody else having a Zoom issue. Myself, yes. Well, we had the affirmative on everything else. I assume she's reconnecting. But we have 4 members voting, 4 in the affirmative, 1 disconnected, or looks like she's coming back in right this second. I assume that was a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 5 members voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. And Bill, I think I got you my money on time this year, so at some point I'll get my sticker.
If you didn't get your sticker, how did you pay? Did you pay online?
Sent you a check.
Oh, you should have got it already. We're turning them right around.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I'll
Things
look
were a little crazy. I'm pretty sure we did send it to you, though.
I'll look into it.
I haven't done my assessor's sheet yet, but I did do yours.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks a lot, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now to go to Salem Police, which is section 8136. Get through the stats. The actual budget items start on 8148. And I know we have Chief Butler here, and I also know we've all gotten a ridiculous amount of form letters, all thinking that the Salem Police are getting $97 million somehow, which I wish we had $97 million for almost anything. But anyhow, Chief.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, the budget, I mean, we originally put in for, obviously, a specific budget back in February, pre-COVID. Obviously, things have changed since then over the last several months, and that's something that, we needed to actually look at, prior to the actual reductions that were asked of us through the city. We started looking at that in a significant way, too. So it looks like at this particular point, I guess, based on this, we're looking at about a $300,000 difference from what was budgeted this year. Probably somewhere around $700,000 difference from what we asked for, which was based on an 8% increase for about 2/3 of our sworn staff that actually took place last year, but was not actually reflected in the budget. So, which is why you see that sort of difference that probably amounted to about somewhere in the vicinity of about 500,000. So that's where we stand at this particular point relative to the budget, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
All right, Councilor Morcillo has the first question, and then Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief Butler. I had a few questions that I kind of wanted to tease out from the information in the budget to help the public understand more of what your department is doing. So the first couple of questions are, what's the percentage of minority officers and female officers?
I did not actually do a percentage, but right now we have 15 minority officers and we have 9 female officers.
Okay. Thank you. My next question is about the RAD program.
Yes.
It says that there's 5 officers trained. How many of these are female officers?
There are 2 of them? 3. Sorry, 3.
Okay. And how is that program going to be advertised and where is it going to be given?
I think that we'd actually partnered with North Shore Medical Center first to do our first one because we have not done that. We actually have one officer, one of the female officers, has actually been a RAD instructor for a number of years, and she's just trying to get the rest of the team going. So every RAD program that gets run, typically, they usually do rely on assistance from other local departments around them, and that's going to help train the trainers that we just actually went through that instruction process so that they really get a good feel for it. So I think that was already agreed upon as maybe the first step, and then from there it's actually going to be just going out to the general public, and some of that could even be to people that are working within the city, etc. So
okay. You had a list of the calls for service, and it had a number of about 38,000. And then the breakdown came out to about 13,000. Can you categorize the remaining, 25,000 calls? Like, what kind of calls are they?
We're going to be real specific about this. So ultimately what you're looking at is what we classify as about the 10%, which is the law and order portion of things. And then we've got the other 90% that we're dealing with societal issues, quality of life issues, and the like. So that's typically what police departments in general deal with. And so that's what you're seeing in terms of when we're trying to look at the particular pieces that you're presented, because you're really only looking at what those crime statistics really are.
Okay. And then you made a point of saying that the calls of service for the elderly have increased. Can you categorize what kinds of calls you're getting?
They're a combination of medical, mental health, boarding, a variety of those particular types of calls. I think sometimes just requiring even lift assistance and that type of stuff. So I mean, we have a growing population of seniors, in our community. So, we anticipate and expect that that's going to happen. So,
okay. And what's the percentage of officers trained in de-escalation techniques?
All of them.
All of them. And how about cultural diversity and implicit bias?
Also, all of them.
All of them. Okay. And is that something that's regularly given?
Yeah, so I guess I'll explain this so it's really clear, and this will be helpful to you and helpful to the general public that may be watching. So every year, police officers are required to undergo 40 hours of in-service training. That particular type of training is set specifically by the Massachusetts Police Training Council. And so every year it is based on what's going on and on how they want to do things. So typically, there's standard normal type things, whether that be your use of force and defensive tactics, which also incorporates the de-escalation techniques. There may be specific training, also on the, obviously, qualification for firearms. You want people to be prepared to be able to do what they need to do. And we also have first responder and CPR training. Those are required trainings that we have to do every year. The other pieces that come into that are always legal updates, like what are the decisions that the courts are making and how does that impact what we're doing? so that we're doing things in a proper and lawful way. And then there's always special topics, and those things could come in to play, which would be like ICAT, which is integrated communication assessment threat. So basically what that talks about is how an officer should create distance, use distance, step back, try to de-escalate, do those types of things. That's a particular training that comes in. Implicit bias is one of those. Procedural justice is one of those. So these are the types of trainings that the Mass Police Training Council asks us to do based on the 40 hours that are required by state law relative to in-service training for Massachusetts officers.
Okay. My last question is, I'm a huge fan of the Community Impact Unit. I think they do a great job here in Salem. If you could add personnel to that group, what kinds of positions would you add to make them more effective and a better service to the community?
I think we've already started down this particular path, and I think that it could be expanded on. We have 3 different civilians that work with us in this group because, we're dealing with the quality of life issues, right? We're dealing with the senior population. We're dealing with mental health issues, substance use issues, and homeless issues. That's really the crux of what that concentration's about. So we have a part-time mental health clinician who works with us 2 days a week. It'd be great to be able to have more of that. We have a homeless outreach worker that works with us about 19 hours a week. She's been extremely and incredibly successful at having housed at a minimum, right so far this year, about 10 individuals that have been homeless on the streets. So these are successes from my perspective that we're making relative to what we're doing. And in addition to that, we have a peer specialist who goes out and does some of the door knocks on the substance use issues that we have to make sure that, 1, families can actually know what they can do to be able to try to help, and 2, provide opportunities for treatment for those that are currently, suffering from this particular disorder. So that's where I would see that particular portion of it growing, because we only have them in part-time capacities at this point. And the need is pretty great. As I said, if you're looking at 90% of the calls that we have are really around societal issues and quality of life issues, this is a fundamental piece.
Thank you very much.
Well said. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Chief. How you doing? I just want to say I'm looking at the budget, and I wanted to make sure none of your budget, obviously there was reductions made in all the departments. I understand that. Was any of your budget diverted anywhere else? I want to make sure I do not support any of your budget being taken from your department and diverted anywhere else. Could you clarify that? I just want to make sure after going through everything.
Councilor, not that I'm aware of at this bigger point. I think we have the similar reductions as everyone else does as we're trying to navigate through this economic downfall. And, I know that the mayor has said that, these will be reviewed throughout the year in terms of how things are done. And that it actually makes sense that we don't actually have answers from the state to be able to actually accurately do that. But what I see is just exactly what you see, and I see nothing different from that. So.
Okay, great. I wanted to make sure, because again, I do not want to see your budget diverted anywhere else. I also wanted to say I wanted to thank you for your leadership in guiding the best police department on the North Shore. I see your officers do a great job every day firsthand, and I can assure you they are the very, very best, and I want to pass that along to them. Thank you again for your leadership, your staff, your command. From the top to the bottom, you're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Just 1 second. Our finance director, Lori, has something she'd like to add.
Sure. I just wanted to comment that when we were preparing the budget and looking through all of the departments, that our thought wasn't to shift money from one department to the other. We were making cuts where we worked closely with every department to try to make cuts that weren't too painful. Although most cuts are painful, but we needed to make those cuts. And as Chief Butler mentioned, we really won't know until we hear from the state what our numbers are going to be. And just recently, we even got a message from them letting us know that we will not be receiving local receipts in terms of meals and hotel excise taxes until September. So our cash flow will be tight as well. So we have done everything we can to try to go through the budget and make cuts. And it's not about cutting one department and giving another department more money.
Okay, thank you, Laurie, for answering that. One of the reasons I asked that question is all the counselors, we've been receiving emails, and the emails are absolutely incorrect as far as figures. We're being told that the Salem police were budgeted at $97 million for last fiscal year. Obviously, anyone that follows the budget knows that that figure's off by about $87 million. So this is the reason I'm asking you, just to clear up that false information for any of the counselors that are getting these emails, or for any counselors for their first time on the A&F committee. Obviously, we know that our police are not getting $97 million. So seeing these emails go around is frustrating because it's incorrect information and it's not right and it's not fair. So I just wanted to clear that, and I thank you too, Laurie, for giving us that information. Thank you.
So, Councillor Hepworth. You may need to unmute. Oops. It's been a while.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief Butler. I just want to thank you for being proactively transparent with me. I think even if going back to maybe January or February, you reached out to me and asked me to come down and speak with you and kind of see the work that you're doing down there. I think it gave me a good frame of reference for some of the things that we're doing today. And throughout this entire process over the last month or so, I've had a number of constituents reaching out, just asking questions about what they're seeing internationally or nationally, and wondering what we're doing here in Salem, from things from the use of force policy to the use of tear gas. And you've been very, very transparent and with your staff with getting answers for those questions. So I'm very super appreciative of that. Just curious if you could talk through, I guess we mentioned earlier the role of the community impact unit, where you see that going in the future, if you see that being something that would shift to a potentially a civilian workforce, or what that looks like. And I guess what percentage of the payroll does the community impact unit today make up? And I think that what they do is great. I'm just curious about what, as we look at policing and public safety in the future, what that could look like and the way you view that, I guess.
Well, we have right now, there are 5 individuals that make up the community impact unit. And so I'm gonna speculate that that's somewhere maybe around 280,000. If I want to base it on that particular, the 5 individuals. We've got 4 that are officers and 1 lieutenant right now who's actually supervising that. And I think that, there's a great ability, I think, to expand. I mean, we've been asking probably for a number of years, because right now the mental health clinician, it's through a grant, and it's been helpful. It would be really awesome if that grant could pick up, that being 5 days a week, because we have that kind of need. This person's nonstop for the 16 hours that they're here. And by the same token, we're dealing with, homeless individuals, right? And I've had this conversation before with some of the counselors, and, it's difficult because I know people look at that as if we're not doing anything. And I want to be clear that the outreach worker and the CIU people are doing a lot in terms of trying to navigate and deal with what is going on there. We have a very big group of people that are resistant to actually any kind of assistance. We have a high-risk homeless task force that bring in all the local partners that we have around, including, the hospital and the clinic and LifeBridge, et cetera, to really try to focus in on what the needs of these individuals are. And that's what we can do. But I can see this expanding in terms of the assistance. If I only get somebody for 19 hours, think of what if I had somebody for 40 hours or more. What that would entail and what that would take into account. And by the same token, as I said, we've got the mental health issues, we have the homeless issues, but we also have the substance use issues. And it's not about, it's a shift in policing, it's been a shift in policing for the last few years, relative to the opiate crisis that we had from, we can't arrest everybody. You can't arrest your way out of a problem like that. What you really need to do is be able to provide that kind of assistance. And so having the pair specialist and the CIU officer go do those door knocks, we're providing the support that we need to families, and we're providing direction and hopefully treatment opportunities for people should they be willing to do that. I know it's an old saying, but you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so we hope that at some particular point, maybe by the third knock on the door, the fourth knock on the door, that somebody decides to say, it's time, and they do that. So do I see the unit changing in that kind of dynamic that it would be helpful? Yes. Sometimes we're dealing with situations that are difficult and dangerous. So I would not want to just say I'm landing it all to a civilian staff. I think that at various points, they certainly can handle it. But there are other times that kind of support could be helpful so nobody is harmed.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the direction of that conversation. It's not about, I think for a lot of people, it's not about necessarily defunding the police. It's what are we asking our police department to do today? And is it appropriate to ask them to deal with some of these questions? In your estimation, I don't know if you're prepared to give an answer like this, but in your estimation, what percentage of issues that the police department deal with are mental health and substance abuse and physical trauma history that may be potentially?
If I had to pick that, I'd be doing it off the top of my head, Counselor. At this particular point, knowing what I know, but I would probably put that somewhere at least at the 25 to 30%. That we're dealing with homeless people that are not only homeless, but they have mental health issues and they have substance use issues. We have individuals that are housed that are having mental health issues and substance use issues, and then individually mental health issues or substance use issues. But there's always this theme of this stuff that's going on. We've seen definitely an increase in mental health issues, and that's not just here in Salem. This is really across the nation. We've seen this uptick, and I think so. If I had to pick a number without looking at the specific stats, I'd put that around 25 to 30% for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Dominguez, and then Councilor Riccardi, and then Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you once again, Chief. Good to see you again. Actually, I only have positive experience with you, Chief, and your office, and all the crowd in Salem Police. Good job. My question is directly to the technology aspect of your department. I know you mentioned that on the objective that you will provide some camera to make sure that you, the police being protected, but also the public being protected. Is that a plan to have that done soon? And can you elaborate a little bit on that so we can know exactly what would be the plan?
So you're talking about the body-worn cameras, Counselor?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But I, as much as I'd love to say this, and I've actually said this for the last several years, but it's about $1 million investment for the city to do that with the equipment, the storage, and with obviously the capabilities that are going to have to be able to, provide those not only for discovery in a court process, but also for public records request and the redacting of those things for people's personal, safety and confidence and stuff. That's about what it's going to cost to do that, and that's a huge number for the city to undertake, especially while we're also in a situation where both the police and the fire radio systems are more than 25 years old and antiquated, and probably very close to failing. And so that's a huge number all by itself. So to add to that, as much as I love to say that, if the federal government is going to do exactly what it seems like they may do and provide some kind of mechanism for grant opportunities to do that, I'd jump on that in a heartbeat, because it would save obviously the taxpayer here from having to do that, and it will provide that benefit. As I said, this is not something, when you record something, you can't really alter that. It's not a panacea, because it can't catch everything in every direction, but it certainly can catch enough to be able to get an idea of what's going on.
Okay, if I may, I have another question to ask.
You took the floor.
It's based on the patrol program that you used to have on a very dense populated area. Are you bringing that back to Salem? I mean, are you going to be able to do the patrol on bike?
Oh, with the bike patrols?
Yeah.
Yes, we still have bike patrols, and so not everybody's trained to bikes. There's a good number of people that are, but we also try to have people do some walking around. It gives opportunity to actually stop and engage with people. So yeah, that's absolutely. We actually have that money through CDBG and through a JAG grant. So yes, that's a yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Riccardi, you have the next question up, and then Councilor Medora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few of my questions have been answered since it's been my turn, but I just wanted to recap a few things or kind of get confirmation on a few things. First, the employee count, kind of tagging off of Councilor Marsilio's question about the minority officers and 9 female officers. I wanted to confirm that our total count of full-time employees last year was 107, and it looks like this fiscal year 21 is the same number of 107, so we're not actually losing any.
No, I think we have 6 less in the sworn area.
So 98 full-time employees?
It'll be 92 on the sworn.
92?
Yes.
Thank you. And are we losing any staff this year, or is it through attrition?
Yeah, it is. No, it's through attrition at this particular point. There are 3 that were going to be coming on to replace individuals that already left. And we were going through that screening process, and the other 3 are people that are going to be leaving shortly.
Okay, and then we're unable to fill. A question regarding the staff count in the community impact unit that I also agree, and will just echo my fellow councilors' statements about the importance of that unit and how much it really is great that the city of Salem is leading in those efforts. And so of the 92 employees, it sounds like there are 5 full-time staff dedicated to the unit. Are there any plans to increase those? And I'm sorry if this was already answered, but are we sticking with the 5? Or I guess another way to phrase my question would be, is there any sort of cross-training, because it is such a great unit, to make sure that everyone on the department is, kind of very familiar and might be able to add on to those services?
And provide that benefit. I will say that is something that we have done before here relative to sort of cross-functional training, where we've had officers sort of to come out of their roles. If they're in the patrol division, they've come out of their roles and gone either into something like CIU or CID, and that cross-functional training helps them enhance their skills when they're on the street, and really builds that connection about making sure that we're doing the right things. For the CIU purposes, it's great because it really falls in line with specifically doing those community policing type things that we really need to do. It's not so much about just going out and talking with people, but it's about solving problems. And how do you look at them instead of going to the same call 5 times? Why are we doing that? How do we solve the problem, and how do we create a better situation where that's not the case? So yeah, we've done that before in the cross-functional training, and I can see that as being another mechanism, especially where we have so many new officers at this point who really may not really have a full understanding of what CIU actually does.
Thank you. I do have a question on, there's a line item in expenses under contracted services for the outreach specialist. I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Yep, the outreach specialist is the individual that I talked about with the homeless. She actually goes out for 19 hours a week to deal with the homeless individuals. She's the one that's got most of them actually signed up with medical services and care, and she follows up with them. And we've got at least 10, if not more, housed in the last year. So,
thank you. And there was also a note on the summary about a school resource officer and the school resource officer program. I'm hoping you could tell me a little bit more about that program. I'm not very familiar with it. It also does note that you plan to add a 3rd school resource officer during fiscal year 21, and I'm curious if that's still the case, especially if I recall that the enrollments in the schools are going down. So I'm curious as to why the increase for the resource officer.
It was initially a plan, but clearly it's not a plan at this particular point. I think the economics of the situation wouldn't warrant it. Obviously, I think that we need to sort of rethink what it is that we're doing relative to that. I've had some preliminary conversations with the mayor about that, and I think that's something that I can't do in a couple of weeks as we're trying to transition and do certain things. But I think it's something that seriously needs to be looked at in terms of what we're doing. I think there's some connections that need to be made. We certainly want to not be invisible to the youth of our community. This is sometimes where we're fostering good relationships and stuff. And so is this really where we need to be, or in a different setting would be the most logical? So I will be revisiting that particular issue, but the third one is not going to happen at this particular point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilor Madore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Chief Butler, you know how much I appreciate you. But I also want to ask some tough questions tonight. And I sent you my list of questions in advance. I was wondering if you have been able to prepare some responses. And before you do that, I just want to really emphasize the fact that all the questions I've heard so far are excellent. I'm really glad to learn that the police officers go through de-escalation training and implicit bias training, but there are problems that can't be trained away. If 40 hours of training can eliminate implicit bias, and I think we should all pat ourselves on the back. But that is just not the reality that we live in, which is why I have asked for some demographic data on the arrests and the citations on motor vehicle stops, because as an Asian American, I still get these very micro-aggressive comments about who I am, where I'm from, like even just door knocking when I'm campaigning. And this is something that I learned during campaigning that I didn't realize until talking to other candidates who are white. I've been in other neighborhoods and have people come out of their homes asking what I'm doing in their neighborhood. And I always thought that was just a friendly thing for them, for a friendly comment for them to make. But after speaking with other candidates, I learned that nobody else has experienced that. And that was very shocking to me. And that's something that I learned through that experience. So just because we say that we have friends of a certain color, or our police force have a certain percentage of officers that are minority, it does not mean that the problem is solved, that we just say that, okay, we've dealt with that. I think it really have to look at what the outcomes are in terms of practices and our what the policies are driving the attitudes in our officers. So I hope you prepare that information, and also some of the budget line items I wanted to point out, but if you could just respond to some of the questions I prepared.
Yeah. It was a short window, Counselor, but I pulled some things together. I worked on it last night and again most of the day today. Things aren't actually in the way that presented through any of our current formats in a way it's easily transmittable, but I was able to actually come up with some particulars for you. So I kind of spanned at this particular point 2016 to 2020, where we currently are, in terms of what that looks like in a year-by-year basis. Sometimes there's lots of categories, and you could be overwhelmed if I ever showed you the printout. It would be a bit much for probably anybody to really review. But to break it down into sort of a very simplistic type of view, 2016 we had 1,702 arrests, and as we go through that. As we do that and look at that. And I know that you asked for male and female relative to that, and I did break that down even further relative to that. But out of that, 1,702 in 2016, 1,198 arrests were white. And I'm going to say these are adult arrests, okay? And let me be clear about that. That could be from an actual whatever happened on the street to a warrant arrest. So those particular types of activities are the things that I actually looked at, because those are the people that we're arresting and bringing to the station. I didn't get into the PCs or anything like that, the protective custodies, but I got into those arrests. So as I said, so 1,198 of those were white individuals. The breakdown, you know, between, and so that basically comprises 70% of the arrests for that particular year. And the Latinos were at 205. That was about 12% of the arrests for the year. Black was 162, which was 9% of the arrests for the year. Asian was 11, which was about 0.5% or just a little more than 0.5%. Indian was 3, and that was about 0.25%. We do have some unknowns, which is about 7%, and just because this is officers trying to determine what individuals are, and some of it is what was probably passed over from microsystems into the next gen computer system, which we started using in late 2015. What that carryover was that it would classify it as unknown when we didn't have anything. So even if I took that, that's 7%. So there's 7% of the total arrests relative to that. 2017, it follows a similar path. We see that there was 1,681 arrests. There was 1,204, or 72%, were white. 177, or 11%, was Latino, and 151 were black, and that equates to 9%. Asian was 8, or less than 0.5%, and Indian was 2, which was less than about 0.1%. And then we had 8% on the unknown. So then the numbers have actually been going down in terms of arrests a little bit. So 2018, there were 1,316 arrests, but the numbers are still staying somewhat consistent. There were 63% of those arrests were white, 16% Latino, 9% black, 0.7%, so a little over half, 0.5% Asian, and 0% Indian, and about 11% unknowns. 2019, similar type of situation. There was 1,347 arrests. Of that, 63% were white, 14% Latino, 10% black, also a little over 0.5%, just like in the previous year. For Asian, 0.5% for Indian, and 12% on the unknown. So those are the numbers. I mean, I haven't broken down further into male and female, but I mean, typically we're probably usually ranging anywhere around the 75 to 90% in male. 75% typically is across the board with the white male, and 25% in that range with the white female. Latino, it is anywhere between, at this particular point, it looks like 79 and 84 on the male Latino, and 16 to 21% on the female. On the black male, we have somewhere between the same, I think the same 80, and looks like 83%, and that for the male, and 17 to 20%. Actually, it runs from, 10% to 20% on the female, depending upon the year. So that's what we're actually looking at. That's the basic breakdown of what we have. If you have a specific question, I'd be more than happy to answer it, but that's the breakdown of what we have over those 4 years. This current year, obviously, we're halfway through. We're at 381 arrests so far this year.
Thank you for that. That's really helpful and positive. But as a follow-up, is there, I'm wondering if there's a proportion of these arrests that are related to substance abuse, and whether the proportions of ethnicity would show up differently for those types of arrests?
I would actually have to look at those particular types of charges. to be able to actually determine that, Counselor. And I can do that. That will just take longer than a day.
Mm-hmm. I think the numbers so far that you cited are positive, but again, if we drill down to the details, I just really want to understand whether some of our the police department's practices have had disproportionate racial outcomes, and that's something. If that is the case, that's something that we need to address urgently.
Yeah, definitely. We can look at that particular issue. And as I said before, I think that, since about 2015, we've been really trying to change that tact in terms of how we view somebody with a substance use issue, to change the way that we've been dealing with it to try to provide assistance as opposed to arrest. But it's definitely something, I agree with you, that's worth looking at.
And in terms of motor vehicle citations, would you say the percentages are similar?
Their percentages are, I'd say they're probably similar. So over that same period of time, we've had 27,243 citations. Of that, 76% have been, 76% are white drivers, 7% is Latino, 8% is Black, and 9% is unknown. So even if I skewed those, because I understand that with the unknowns, which is about 2,533 particular citations themselves, that there's probably somewhere just close to about half of them, which are actually Latino. That brings that number instead up to a 13%. So 78%, skewing the unknowns and taking the unknowns out. So all the options then are white, Latino, and Black. And so 78% white, 13% Latino, and 9% Black.
Thank you. So for my other questions related to the budget, can you provide more details on the overtime pay?
Yes.
Specifically the ones that are not attributed to haunted happenings and court hearings.
Oh, yes. I actually do have that breakdown. I have so many papers on my desk, it's not even funny. I'm trying to figure out what the heck, it's right in front of me. All right. So basically, not to be obnoxious, but I do have a pie chart here that, that Fred Greener does for me on a regular basis, not to be annoying, but he does this for me all the time so that I have some idea of what we're doing. So all of police breakdown is one thing, and I will answer your question specifically that you're asking for. But we have in our breakdown, 22% of that staffing. But if I'm going to add to that another 3% because it's for officers doing reports afterwards. So if they got a call at 11:45 and they're getting off at 12, they're doing their reports. That's the additional hour or 2 hours, or if it's a OUI arrest, it's another 4 or 5 hours to do a report. That gets factored in. So about 25% of that is relative to staffing. So what that means is that in order to make sure that we have the street covered appropriately, that if we have people on vacation, people are on personal days, or people that are out sick and we have that replacement to make sure that they're there, that number is certainly skewed differently from what it is. We may have anywhere between 5 and 9 people on the street at a time. 5 is the lowest number that will go. So if we have 6 and somebody calls out sick, we're still at 5. We don't generally call and ask for a replacement. But if those numbers filter down below what we should expect on the street with 5 cars, there's actually 6 people because we have a 2-person unit in 22. So 6 people, 5 cars, then that's the number that we operate on. So that's the staffing backfill. 13% is based on training. Right now, we only have 6% on court, but that's because we just spent the last 4 months without any court. That's usually typically much higher. We've had 1% is spent on Citizens Police Academy in terms of the instructors training. 1% on elections. There's 16% on haunted happenings, and 2% on NEMLEC and NEMLEC training. So there could be training and or call-outs. And then there was a 3% on special events so far this year. And then we got about 16% on miscellaneous. And so that was your question, which was, what exactly is miscellaneous? What does it break down to? And what does that really mean, right? The one figure that you were looking for, which was the 525, which doesn't fall under a category of training or community events or haunted happenings or court or anything else like that. So that 525 is absolutely everything else that actually is going to be done in the department, whether that is as I said, the backfilling for the staffing that are there, or it is CID investigation call-outs relative to that. And I'm just going to get my list here just to be able to say that. If that is events that go on in the city that require our attention, as it has in the last month or so, we'll provide that. In addition to that, there is various meetings that people may end up going to, within the city. And then, I mean, there's a multiple number of different things here, just to be clear. I'm just trying to get you the specific ones. There's money that actually is spent assisting, it's not a huge amount, but $3,000 is spent on doing our background investigations before we hire somebody. Most of it's done on duty, but sometimes that can't be helped because we actually go to places that could be in other parts of the state to be able to get information on individuals. We have money that's spent with our custodian. If they have to go above and beyond, I have one custodian. So there's a lot of work in a big building like this, as well as the outside. And then we also have, we provide some assistance and coverage to the farmers market regularly during the time that's actually in place. So some of the other things are, we've been out there obviously trying to assist with the social distancing and face coverings. That is stuff that, that we're out there with. The fireworks as of recently, which is driving everybody in the city crazy. Those are the things that will be covered under that particular general overtime, as you see. It's pretty much everything.
So some of the earlier categories that you mentioned, it sounds like it's more of a staffing issue. So is there a way to increase the staffing if that could be absorbed in that way rather than providing overtime pay?
It's not so much about the staffing because we have staff on, but we have, close to 40,000 calls for service. So I can't say that I can dedicate somebody specifically to, 3 or 4 hours in doing something, which is taking away from their responsibilities in the area that they're supposed to be covering. So, I mean, I think right now we're covered probably in the best that we could. And I can do that in some instances, like I've done for the parks relative to asking 21 car, which is the Willows Patrol, to be able to be down there for a certain period of time throughout the day. But that means somebody else is eating all their calls. So if something else is happening on Bridge Street or something's happening at the Common, those things are not things that officer is going to be able to respond to if I'm dedicating them someplace. So,
okay, thank you for that explanation. So you talked earlier about training. Is the education incentive budget, is that line item related to training, or it's more similar to what the fire department provides in regards to getting a degree?
So which one are you talking about? I'm sorry. Can you be more specific? Which one?
The one that is... The one that's proposed 706,621.
Oh, educational incentive. Okay. So that is two different things. One is I don't know if you can go to section, it looks like section 8-150, which is sort of a breakdown of all the personnel matters.
Yep.
Okay. So down at the very bottom, what you'll see the education incentive broken down into two different areas. One is the Quinn bill that was in place until about 2008 that is still being funded. So that's anybody that's old. Not trying to be funny, but anybody who's been here for a number of years and who obviously that's that's a portion of a percentage of that educational incentive. So depending upon what they actually have, if they have an associate's degree, it's 10%. If they have a bachelor's degree, it's 20%. If they have a master's degree, it's 25%. What you see underneath that is the new hire. So anybody from 2008 on are actually just through their contract receive a stipend as opposed to a percentage, where they have $2,500 for an associate's degree and $5,000 for a bachelor's degree. And so that's the two of those pieces lumped together.
And that incentive is provided while you're an active police officer?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said in my email, are there any metrics that you're tracking to understand whether this education incentive has specific outcomes, whether you're looking?
I was going to say, well, first of all, one, they have to have the degree, right? That's obviously number one. Number two, there is a link to the new hire ones from the 2008 on, that if they receive that benefit, they also have a 4-hour community service element that they need to partake in every year.
Chief,
If you could just probably go into the Quinn bill a little bit, just because a lot of people probably aren't familiar with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just, if you don't mind, Counselor, I was just going to add, a lot of these are vestiges from legislative bills that, have since not been funded regarding education incentives for police officers, which are a good thing, right? We want a police force that's educated. There's research that shows a more educated police force is typically less biased, more innovative, things like that. But the law created this benefit, and then, was it maybe 6 years ago? I think the funding went away for it. And they said, no, you no longer have to pay Quinn bill. It was a required legislative action that if somebody was hired with a certain degree status, and as they moved up the ladder, whether it was a master's degree or a law degree, we do have officers that have both of those, it would be, their pay increase would be tied to that. Since the legislature has ended, we actually don't think it's fair to have one set of officers having an education incentive and another officer working right next to them with the same education background not getting that benefit. And we've created sort of this bifurcated system. Some of that is tied to, as I said, a prior state statute. But it is a desire for us to make sure that we are, providing professional development opportunities for officers, both underdegree requirements and advanced degree requirements, and also training and opportunities to maximize their professional development through programs, policing, mentoring, and the like. And there is a pay tied to that. But it's a creature of the Quinn bill, Council, I guess is what I want to make sure is clear.
Thank you. I did notice that it's well used, and I just want to understand what some of these, goals that the police department has set for these officers that take advantage of the benefit, that those goals are met. So thank you for that. Let's see. The specialty stipend.
Yep, those will be things like anyone that's in your specialty type unit. So that could be detectives, CIU, your canine officers, honor guard, dive team, the firearms instructors, to the FTOs that you have that are training some of the new recruits. So each one of those have an associated stipend that goes with that.
Okay, thank you. And then the youth, the Salem Police Youth.
Yes, that was that was a one-time shot. We did that. We were going to try to do it again this year, but clearly, I think with the COVID thing and not getting together with people has put a damper on that. But last year, what they did is they had 25 kids that actually filled out applications, and ultimately only 20 of them actually participated in it. So what they did was, they tied this into the mentoring program with the high school. And the idea was to try to get kids that are either first going into high school, it would be their first time, right? So it's the summer before their high school, or somebody that's actually in their freshman year early on, or they're new to the city. that would give them an opportunity to sort of come in, get an idea of who some of the other people are, build some friendships, and what that we did. I mean, so the money that was actually, contributed to that through the budget was to pay for three of the mentors through the mentorship program at the high school to actually be a part of this. So it paid for their time to be there, to actually start embracing sort of what, the new people that are coming in and stuff, and be able to share that. So it gave us an opportunity to interact with them, gave us an opportunity to do some almost like boot camp type style work with them. But they also went and they had different things that they talked about during the time. So it was 3 days a week for 4 weeks, and it was about 3 or 4 hours every single day in the morning. They started at 7 in the morning. It was amazing that these high school kids actually got up for 7 o'clock in the morning to engage in physical activity and do some of that stuff. But that's really what the program was about, was to sort of, we all know that, you're going into a new school and you're walking in for the first time, you don't really know anybody. It gave an opportunity to do that and to bolster really who the mentors are in the mentorship program at the high school, to actually know some of the students as they were coming in. It was a great opportunity for the offices to connect with them prior to actually starting the school as well. So what ended up happening, let's see, we had 25, but only 20 of them. So the 3 mentors, which were great, they were, we had, all the mentors were non-white, which was awesome for the group, but we had 15, unfortunately we had 15 that were Caucasian that participated, 4 that were Latino, and 1 that was Black. And so, we offered it out there to all the students, and nobody was refused. So it wasn't limited to a number. Nobody was refused if they were interested in it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the intent behind that question is, the police officers are seen as role models in our community, and I can certainly see that in my son. When he sees a police officer, whether it's you or any officer who's just downtown, and he sees a lot of them, he looks up to them. And if we're going to have a mentorship program, and the way that the program was described, the language was used to describe the program in the budget book, it just very generally says try and get the kids to learn about good behavior and help them towards
I think it was more about good health. You know what I mean? And it was, it was also more introducing them to others who are going to be going to school, and sort of set the right stage as they were going.
Yeah, so I just was asking for more detail on, again, going back to implicit bias and these stereotypes that we may be intentionally or unintentionally reinforcing. And I really want to see this program move forward, but wanted a better understanding of who the officers are who are participating in this program. And more specifically, I couldn't find a specific line item that funds this program. Can you point it out for us?
Yes, it was in there. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you where the heck that was, and I need my glasses for that. That was not that one.
Don't tell me it's overtime.
No, it wasn't for them. No, that was their time. The money that was put, it's in the expense sheets, by the way. That was really to pay the mentors from the high school and to provide them some snacks and water to make sure everybody was hydrated. It was great because Boys and Girls Club actually provided the transportation anytime they needed to go someplace. So we didn't actually even have to fund that particular equation. I know this is in here, and just bear with me for 1 second. Where is this? I want you guys to know your little help. It was under community events. So that's 5775. That's on page 8-156.
That's a significant reduction then.
Well, yes, the reduction is because we're not obviously having it because of the COVID situation. The kids not being in school, we haven't been able to actually connect with them at this point.
So is this program preserved using this?
I'm hoping that it will continue to be preserved. Yes, I think it was a beneficial program. I remember actually having the group came in here for one of their days on their little field trip after their workout, and it was great to have a conversation, in my office with them, as well as for them to actually see, the police station and some of the offices that are here. So. I consider it positive, and I consider it a great way to introduce kids, starting out in a new school in a positive way where they can really know other people and help the mentorship program at the high school.
Thank you. And then lastly, actually my second to last question, the Citizens Academy, my question about the demographic breakdown of folks who have been able to participate.
Yep, and I had that, and God knows what I did with it today. That was provided to me. Oh, God. I have so many papers here, it's not even funny. Not here. I do know I have this. Hold on. Okay, so we've had 9 classes since the fall of 2015. We've graduated 227 students. Right now, 194 have been white, 28 Latino, 4 Black, and 1 Asian. 126 females and 101 males. I will say this, though, that anyone who was Latino, Black, or Asian was never put on a waiting list. So it's a matter of trying to get that interest for individuals to step forward, because we wanted that diversity in our groups.
Okay, thank you. And I'll have my final question. Like some of my colleagues have mentioned earlier, we've been getting a swarm of emails calling to defund the police with misinformation. I don't know if you've seen some versions of these. I think we've had different versions of them. How would you respond to those calls to defund the police? And I am absolutely not suggesting that we abolish our police department. I actually am very proud of the work we do. There are some improvements that we can look into, but the call to kind of do some divestment and perhaps more investment into social services, as you had said earlier, that perhaps increasing staffing around mental health and homelessness staffing levels, I think those are the conversations that we could dive deeper into. But to the kind of recent surge in interest in how we fund our police departments, how would you respond to those calls?
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I have not really taken a look at any of the emails, but I do know that the messaging is out there, and I've never taken the messaging to be that, that there wasn't going to be a police department, that the defunding was really talking about what's going on in our communities. I think that we need to take a step back and take a look at the history of what's developed in terms of what police were doing, and then what has continued to be the case. We're an easy spot, right, to sort of say, okay, well, you can handle this because we're here 24/7. So it's easy to say, okay, well, you handle the homeless issue, you handle the mental health issues, you handle the substance use issues. You're already out on the street, so could you handle the social distancing and face coverings? So this has just been an ongoing, and I don't think it's not a finger pointing, blame anybody, whatever, but the fact of the matter is this has been an easy fix for dealing with societal issues that have come along, and police departments continue to try to train their officers to put on a different hat, whether we're putting on a social worker hat or a psychologist hat or, a law enforcement officer hat. We're switching gears sort of on a regular basis and trying to train our officers to sort of understand all these particular dynamics. So, I don't think that, it's not my impression, and I'm sure that people are frustrated by police in terms of their interference in their life when they are things that are quality of life type issues, or things that where they may need assistance with. It's how we look at things and how we're supposed to be dealing with them. Bottom line is, we've been given discretion for a reason to be able to look at what it is that we're dealing with and the person in front of us in terms of what's the best outcome for the individual and for the community at large. So I've talked earlier about what I thought some of those particular processes and where we can step up in that regard, to build and enhance sort of a civilian group that actually assists in those areas where it doesn't appear like at that point where you've got individuals that are specifically trained, because you need specific training in some of these areas to be able to deal with some of the issues that are there, can actually handle those probably in a much better way without the uniform, and then I know the uniform is in some instances sort of that, sort of a turnoff to people in terms of, step away from me. I remember back in 2015, I was invited to the Salem State University to speak with both the Brotherhood and the Bees. And I'll tell you, it was only me and one other MBTA officer that was there. And, these folks that sat around in this particular circle and talked about some of their experiences that they've had in their own lives, in their own communities in terms of, and these are people of color. And it's a little disheartening to know that this is how they were treated by that. And so my messaging here has always been, people bring with them what they've experienced at some particular point in their life. So it's an opportunity for us to create a better experience if we're handling things the way that we need to. But that being said, I understand the difficulties of, if this is something that people have experienced it over and over and over again, it makes it really hard to think that the next person that's approaching you is going to be different. So having some civilians in some of these instances where they are issues that are really just sort of things where people need assistance and help, could be a direction that would make a lot of sense. And that's what I have to say.
Counselor, could I also respond to your question? Because I think I'm getting a lot of those emails. Chief, I thought we'd sent some down to you, but it's pretty much a form email. There's definitely some inaccuracies in it, but they're Salem residents, right? Their addresses are at the bottom. And I think there's obviously concern about what's happening within law enforcement as a community. And, I think for me, when I hear residents say defund police, I think the majority of Salem residents understand that in a city our size, that this is a way more complex phrase than it might sound. We just can't simply take resources away from one entity without having a plan in place to respond to the needs of the community. We have 38,000 calls for service a year that come into the police department. And these calls range from, life, limb, and property threats to, off-leash animals to everything in between. And, we have a department that, for a city our size, I always feel like we punch out of our weight class, right? We deploy staff aimed at keeping everyone safe during these large-scale Halloween events and activities, and those same individuals use, their discretion appropriately for smaller, more somber occasions. It might just be, keeping traffic at bay through a funeral procession. We ask a lot out of the people who work in the Salem Police Department. We do a survey every year, so we're always trying to understand where we can continuously improve. And I put this idea of defunding the police under innovation, continuously improve. The survey ranks our police department pretty high. That doesn't mean that we're going to shy away from innovation. And I would say we're not, picking up trash the way we did 10 years ago. We don't read and pay water bills the way we did 10 years ago. We certainly aren't fighting crimes the way we did 10 years ago. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that we may want to innovate and look for other ways to deliver services. And I think this department is actually a group that could lead that. We didn't have a community impact unit a few years ago. I don't know if that was Chief St. Pierre or Chief Tucker. I think that was Bob who started that. Both based on the whole broken window theory and trying to deal with neighborhood nuisances and these trouble spots in a way that wasn't always about arresting somebody, but solving the problem and not having patrol just continuously come back. I know when Chief Tucker was here, we were one of the first departments to wear Narcan as a police department. We're going to respond to opiate overdoses. We assigned personnel to work at LifeBridge. There's a reason we have a good relationship with the homeless shelter in terms of trying to make sure that We have a handle on our most vulnerable population. It's been planned. It's been part of an effort that says we just can't run around and chase people and arrest them. We need another way of doing this. And Chief Butler's completely built off of that entire platform and enhanced it and made it better. The high risk task force, I mean, we have people coming to us to learn, hey, how are you doing this? How do you have mental health counselors, going with patrol officers out to calls? How are you getting a handle on what's going on with individuals so we're not duplicating services in a city our size? And the chief's done the most to really increase the diversity of hiring of new officers, for sure. So I don't think we should shy away from scrutiny around, hey, what are the law enforcement practices that we're following? Can they be improved? Is this the right approach to solving a community problem? I think our personnel have the confidence and the experience and know how to innovate and kind of really lead these reform efforts. Now, we need more people at the table. I think just because, and we should say this, we do have really a committed squad of men and women at the police department who work hard every single day, to keep residents safe. That doesn't mean we're not immune to bias or unjust behavior. And we ought to say that as people and as a community. That's true, right? You can be an awesome department and not be immune to bias or unjust behavior. So we shouldn't fear sort of this looking under the hood. I think it's an opportunity for us to showcase what's working well, change what's not, and make sure we're hearing all of the voices in our community. So when people say we should defund the police, and if that means we should examine what law enforcement is doing, yeah, we should definitely do that and make sure it's the right solve for the problem. And if people think defunding the police are concerned about militarization of law enforcement locally, I think that's a concern. Like, we don't have tear gas. Our use of force policy is pretty good. We should look at it, as should every police department in America. But we need to make sure that, the militarization of local law enforcement doesn't happen here, because we know that has been used to create harm for brown and black populations. And if folks who are angry and frustrated that too often people who are wearing uniform end up with some sort of bias happening for people of color, particularly young brown and black men, the fact that parents have to have conversations with young black men about driving and how to respond, we need to do more to change those outcomes. And I think our community and our police department can embrace that. And when people say we have a really good police department that needs our support, they mean we have high quality personnel capable of working in concert with our community to build trust and improve practices. A city our size, with the people we have, we can totally do this. And I think we need to figure out how we can be responsive to the times. We need to heed the call to action. There are biases and injustices that are happening in our community, in our country, in our state, and we shouldn't shy away from that. We can also say, hey, we have a good department and folks who are working hard and go above and beyond most days of the week to support what's happening in Salem. We're not an easy place. It's a hot city. And I hope we can figure out that space. Frankly, that's what this race equity task force is about, that as a city, can we come together? Communities of color, our industry, our partners who are going to be here for a long time, decision makers, some of you, some of our school committee members, to ensure that we're thinking thoughtfully about how bias impacts many systems within our community. Healthcare, law enforcement, education, we could go on. We have to acknowledge it exists. And then it's up to us, and by us, I mean Chief Butler, I see that Lieutenant King, and others, Captain, to make sure that we're doing all that we can to innovate. And I totally think we're capable of that. I think it will be hard, but I don't think there's any reason we shouldn't want to embrace this opportunity to undo past injustices, prevent bias from happening, and if there's other ways to sort, more efficient solves for problems, that's kind of who we are. So I'm hopeful. It is hard right now. It feels like the weight. I see some of our officers and their heads are down, and and I understand why that's coming from. It's a really tough time, I think, to be in law enforcement. But I hope we can get to the point where we're actually working together to try and overcome legitimate issues, cut through things that maybe aren't so legitimate here, might be in other places, but ultimately improve and make sure that everyone in our community feels respected, heard, and most importantly, safe. And I think that's work worth doing. And I'm looking forward to it, actually. I think it's a conversation that we can have in a community like ours.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add one thing quickly to the financial side of things, because I know, we've been talking about overall funding. A friend of mine had sent me what he considered to be an example that the Portland, Oregon City Council had cut approximately $30 million from their police budget. And so then I took a look, for comparison's sake, I took a look at the math between them and said, okay, well, they cut down to a $240-something million budget. They cut down to that level in the process of their version of defunding. And I took their population and our population, did the math to equalize the two. And if that were the case, Salem, if Salem were the comparable size to Portland, we would have a police budget of roughly $140 million to their $240-something million for the same population. So, I mean, they're obviously a significantly larger city. They're almost as big as Boston is at roughly $650,000. But the fact that kind of ties to it is cities like ours are long accustomed to doing more with less in general. And so I know if you wanted to be comparable, that would mean just, per capita, that we were going with a police budget here of around $16 or $17 million, which I'm sure we could do amazing things with. And I'd love to see us use some funding as we go forward and as we kind of reimagine to get more civilians that can do, specially trained civilians that can do things. As the chief said, having mental health clinicians, having more hours available for them, having more people attached to the CIU that can solve problems without it necessarily being a person walking up to the door to solve the problem with a badge on. And, but we've got a police force that has a tough job to do just in the law enforcement portion of things. And we need that role very much so. We can find more things that we can do as we go forward to make this force work better, but we do a lot with a little. And I just want to kind of point that out to everybody.
I think that's really true, Counselor, and I think we need to figure out how to be able to engage in conversations like you just mentioned without it happening at the point of a sword, right? Without hands on each other's necks, right? Because we are a small enough community where I hope we can have hard conversations and we can recognize, where we can see improvements and how we can achieve that. But this is not a budget that's, even with this cut, right? Even without this cut, the police department budgets, our department budgets aren't laden with some sort of extra fleet or, extra division or extra personnel. We have 38,000 calls, right? Those are people who are getting responses, and if anything, it's really tough sometimes to make sure that we're getting to all the things we need to at the pace that everybody would always appreciate. And all the more reason to look at it, right? To look at it and try and be innovative. And I hope it can happen in a fashion that people who are currently wearing the badge see it that way. That this is an opportunity for us to address some things that conversations that have been long overdue, but also improve work practices and eradicate that bias that exists, if at all possible.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments from members of the City Council? Councilor Dibble.
It didn't want to unmute. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep my comments very brief and a couple of questions. Earlier tonight, I thanked the fire chief in responding to an incident at my house, but Chief Butler, it was the police department that arrived in less than 2 minutes, probably close to a minute. I couldn't believe how fast. I hung up the phone and the doorbell rang. So you guys are phenomenal. I've been talking to a lot of Braintree police in the last couple of days. And my heart goes out to the entire Salem Police Department. You guys, I know so many officers all the way up and down the ranks. You guys do a great job. Chief Butler, I only have known you for about 35 years or so, actually longer than that, I think. And you do a great job. So with that, I'd like to ask a couple questions. With regard to the fireworks, a week and a half ago, it seemed like 90% of your calls were on fireworks. Then you and the chief, you and the mayor took some steps. And I think that's really important so we can get some of these issues with fireworks off the table and have you back to doing policing work, which is much more important. Those fireworks are not a celebration at all. They're not, and they're not all fun and games. They're not fun and games when somebody loses an eye or your house burns down or anything else. Chief, you responded probably about 15 times to Rainbow Terrace in about a 30-hour period for fireworks. It was endless, and it was not just there; it was all over the whole city. Your staff caught somebody lighting fireworks in Ward 1. Later in the day, found them and issued them a $100 ticket at Rainbow Terrace. And then later that night at 4 o'clock in the morning, the $100 ticket was at about 1 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, you found them again at 1000 Loring Avenue for the third time in one day, lighting off more fireworks, and they got a $300 ticket. So I applaud the mayor for recommending that we raise the fine to $300. So thank you, Mayor. I look forward to voting on that. The numbers that you talked about earlier at the request of the Ward 2 councilor, in terms of a breakdown of whites and Latinos and Black and Asians, on and on, I'm wondering if you can share, I think it was a 4-year period, can you share those numbers with the city council? Those numbers, when you look at a snapshot of the numbers at a whole for all the arrests for the 4-year period, it kind of proves that as a whole, Salem Police Department is not biased. Those numbers look pretty good, but I'd like to dive into them more, and I think the Ward 2 Council might like to dive into them more as well. So can you furnish those numbers to us, Chief?
Yes, I will actually send those to Eileen, and she can get them distributed to all of you.
And thank you for doing that work in 1 day's time. That was very, very helpful for tonight. So thank you. You mentioned 40,000 calls, and the mayor said 38,000 calls, same number. Is that within a 1-year period?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a staggering number of calls. Almost half of them were probably last weekend with the fireworks. It was an amazing fireworks display all over the whole city. And luckily nobody, well, I don't even know what the injury reports were. Let me jump to the final concern I have is on the community impact unit. We've been talking about that a little bit here tonight. We received a wonderful presentation from Lieutenant Roachville on the dozens. You know, I thought it was going to be a few things. I thought I knew what the CIU really did. I knew about half of what they did, and I was floored. And I thought I really knew what they did. I've worked with them for a long time. But to hear that they have 36 or more different programs that they're working on to help the city of Salem in so many different ways. That story, Chief and Mayor, that story needs to be told. We need to advertise and brag about what our Salem Police Department is doing to helping the community. This is not just normal policing. This is where they're reaching out and they're helping, I mean, really helping people all different ways. That story needs to be told. And if there's a need for more, you mentioned the 3 civilian workers, one working 2 days, one working 19 hours, etc. If you need to come back, you said that there's a need for more of those services, please come back to us. Please get with the mayor, tell us what you need, and we'll find a way to fund it. Chief, you do a great job. I'm sorry that you've been, not you, but the whole force has been singled out in this whole issue over the last several weeks. I think we have a fine Salem Police Department. Can we be better? Yes. Can the city council be better? Can the mayor be better? Yes. All of us are human beings. All of us can do a better job. But thank you for what you do, and thank you for your entire force.
No, I appreciate that, Councilor. Thank you. And I want you to not feel bad about not knowing everything about CIU, because bottom line, when I first got here as chief, I had my entire command staff and people at lieutenant and sergeant's ranks come into a presentation for each one of my units. And all I got out of that was, oh, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that. So you're not alone. even people within my own department didn't actually know everything that the CIU group were doing, so.
Yeah, Chief, I want to thank you. If I may continue, Mr. Chair, I'll end with this comment. Chief, 4 of your officers of all different ranks reached out to me this week. My sister-in-law was murdered a couple of days ago down in Braintree, and I received some heartfelt comments from your employees, your officers, so thank you to them.
I'm sorry to hear that, Counselor, really. It's the first I'm hearing about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other members of the committee, or there's still a few counselors on the call? So any other members of the committee want to make any comments or discuss at all? If I don't have any, then we can proceed from there. Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I entertain a motion to accept the personnel total on the police department of $10 million with $1,200 with $200 84 cents.
So, thank you. Councilor Dominguez moves to approve the police personnel budget of $10,012,200.84, seconded by Councilor Flynn. Seeing no further discussion on this, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hepworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the police personnel budget of $10,012,200.84, we have 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. We have a police expenses budget of $693,202. Do I have a motion? So moved by Councilor Dominguez, seconded by Councilor Flynn. On the expenses budget, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Hepworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the expenses budget of $693,202, we have 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. We have a department total budget of $10,705,402.84. Move for approval by Councilor Flynn, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. Again, seeing no further discussion, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Absolutely yes.
Councilor Hepworth.
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi.
Yes.
Myself, yes. On the departmental total of $10,705,402.84, we have 5 councilors voting, 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. So with that, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I'll just remind you we have tomorrow we will be dealing with engineering and public services and also the schools. So, and that will wrap up and then we will actually be voting. We had amended the agenda yesterday. We will be also taking up the revolving fund authorization and the overall CIP committee report then, because the Ward 2 councilor, as Ola chair, is going to use the 6 o'clock time for her meeting before the council meeting on Thursday. So we will not be holding committee on Thursday. Only tomorrow we'll wrap up the rest of the budget. So thank you all for participating. If I can have a motion. Councilor Dominguez. Councilor Dominguez moves to adjourn. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Chief Butler.
Thank you.
Thank you.